My name is Bolgai Deng. I'm candidate for the President of South Sudan. We just come yesterday from the United States. It was a tough trip. It was a journey that took us 20 hours to come here. Thank you. Most of you are aware about the South Sudan. They've been going through a lot of hardship and war and the suffering. Mostly the women of South Sudan are suffering, are the most marginalized of the marginalized, and the Syrian marginalized. Where the women, young ladies have to be taken to early marriage and leave school, while actually also there's no school in the country. Food insecurity is an issue. The current system is not working. The president, vice president have no will to bring the peace in the country. So the people of South Sudan decide to see alternatives where can bring the unity of the people of South Sudan and bring the peace and development of the country. South Sudan, right now, majority of them are dying from starvation because there's no lack of food. United Nations try to do their best to feed the South Sudanese, and he's not able to. The government wash his hand, is not willing to support the people of South Sudan. Most of South Sudan are displaced all over East Africa, right here in Kenya, while I'm talking to you. Ethiopia and also Uganda, and also some of them went back to the former Sudan. So this is the reality. People have demand that you have to be alternative because these two men in the office are not the solution. So I'm here to let you know that South Sudanese want peace and they want hope. Someone can bring the hope and unity together. I know a lot of you may have heard about the tribal issue in the country. South Sudan is not a tribal country. South Sudan is the most unified society, African indigenous people who have fought one fight against the North for a long time until they got independent, and they voted 98% to have a country called South Sudan in 2011. Then you can see the spirit of South Sudanese are the most unified. Just the two men are not willing to bring these people together. South Sudan is the great Christian in Africa. 98% of the Christian Africans, indigenous. We believe these people, they need someone that can stand up and bring them together so they can unify and they can move forward. For Kenya to have a good neighbor, a peaceful neighbor, in the East Africa region, South Sudan can play a big role economical tie with the Kenyan and Uganda and Ethiopia and other part of the African region. We believe that the peace in South Sudan is very important to the neighbors countries and is very important to the Horn of Africa. That's why I'm here. And I want to let you know that I'm here for the demand of people of South Sudan, and I thank you for being here. Yes, I come from the largest tribe in the country. Most of you may know what they call Denka. I'm from the Denka. Salva Kiir himself is from the Denka. So we believe that the people of South Sudan actually right now, they are dying under a leadership supposed to be the Denka man. But the Denka is killing his own Denka, unfortunately, the way the system is. And he's killing other tribes as well. So he declared the war against his own citizen. I believe that the Denka, it was a God-given population numbers in the country to stand for to champion for the minority, to champion for the minority tribes. We should not be able to oppress the minority tribe because we are majority. We should be able to safeguard the minority tribes and protect them and give them hope. That's what the majority is. A majority that actually oppress the minority, God would not give them any success to have that kind of number. And that's why you're seeing them all over. Majority of actually live in Kenya now, they are Denka, and they run away for their own son. They are not Nuer, they are not other Equator. They are just Denka, run away from their own Denka. That tells you that system has failed, and that man is not doing anything. So being from that tribes, we believe that we are going to call all the South Sudanese ethnics to come together in a unified way to build our country, and also to make sure that justice have to be there, and accountability have to be also pursued, and to make sure that this is not going to happen again for the next generation. Well, I've been in South Sudan in 2013 and 2018. This is the point. Sudan has been at war for a long time. And most of you in the Africa community never given a full story about the war. And that is so sad. I don't blame the Kenyan, I don't blame the African Union. I blame the leaders of South Sudan for not giving a full story about the South Sudan. South Sudan was at war because we have been denied our right being African. We want to live up our Africanism, that we need to be proud Africans. And the people that we share the country with deny our identity. They want us to be Arabs, and they want us to be a member of the Arab League, not the African Union of IGAD. That was the fight. Also, our culture as Africans, indigenous people, have been denied. Our language, the Africa dialects, have been denied. If you go to Sudan, you have to speak in Arabic as a South Sudanese, or otherwise you have no chance to graduate. That was a part of the challenge in Sudan, and that's why we had the war. Another part of it also being a Muslim or being a Christian. So it was actually a war between Christian and Islam. That the dominance in the leadership on the top want the country to be Arab and Islamic state, not to be Africa. And this government, led by Bashir and people before Bashir, actually organized the Islamic militant to go and raid the African villages, where my village was raided. I was kidnapped. I was taken in slavery in 1987 with more than 700 kids. They walk as bare feet without shoes to Western Darfur, where we end up being sold to the market. Walk to the Arab wealthy man. Our young girls have been distributed, being sexually abused, raped, and getting forced marriages with the slave masters. 3 years later, I was able to manage to escape because I was been disciplined by the master. Put the chain in my leg, a lot of stuff. After that, I became a good boy, disciplined, listen to my master. Then give me a little bit assignment to go and take the cows and give them water, where I was able to see a train and I catch the train was coming from the West Darfur to Khartoum, and I catch the train, I went to Khartoum. I ended up in refugees camp in a Catholic charity called Kamboni. Then from there also we find another challenge. The first time I was able to speak Arabic was when I was taken to Catholic charity, because South Sudan don't speak Arabic. The majority of them live in villages, they don't know what Arabic is. We live in a country that we don't know that we were Sudanese. We just know we are Dinka, that's all. No more than that. So when I got to Khartoum in 1990, I ended up that Khartoum also had been led by Osama bin Laden, a man who actually attacked Nairobi in 1998 here, U.S. Embassy. And they kicked out their organization of Catholic Charity. We need to run again, and went to Egypt. From Egypt, I got asylum to the United States. In 1999, I went to the United States of America. My case was I was being a slave. My family, lost my family when I was young. My dad died when I was 3 months. And my mom also was beat to paralyze, and she died later. My brother was a slave. My brother's wife was a slave. My old relative, they were a slave. So for me, telling that story to the entire community, give me asylum to go to the United States. After I went to the U.S., I was sponsored by Catholic Charity, and also went to school there. Like John mentioned, I was very much graduate from political science, homeland security, and then I realized I have to go home, and I don't want what happened to me to happen to another next generation in South Sudan. Unfortunately, the African don't know slavery still exists in Sudan. Slavery is still going on in Sudan right now. We have about 35,000 slaves who are still now in the market in Sudan. They've never been self-acquired, does not talk about it. The government does not talk about it. They're hiding this. These have been hiding agenda. And that's why it's a part of my role as a former slave to go back and live with these people. It's one of my agenda. The leadership just have to be about just leadership. We want to make sure that we need to go back to our, you see the reason why we fought in the first place, we will try to define our nationalism. And that is the Africanism. Nationalism, and that unite us as the indigenous people of South Sudan, and also embrace our culture, embrace our way of life. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just because we need that, and people of South Sudan need that. And for me being here, I think that we need to present a values, a way that we need to be a society that's peaceful, not a violent society. Have been described by international community in many ways. Misrepresented by Salva Kiir or maybe Riek Machar, whatever this individual. We want to make sure that the South Sudan are the most peaceful society in the Horn of Africa and also in the world. To do that, You need to have a leadership that happy, believe in happiness, believe in togetherness, believe in peace, and also South Sudanese need right now a leader can deliver. Leader that say that I'm going to build a school, will build a school. A leader that say that I'm going to bring hospital, is going to bring a hospital. A leader that's going to say I'm going to bring the food, is going to bring the food. These are not lacking around. There's no leader in South Sudan can do that right now. So that's why my leadership, I had to present those values and promises on time and make sure that I would deliver.